Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Subspace Weekly Developer Sync. We're going to go around and get updates from everybody on the engineering team about what we've been working on over the last week, what we're going to be working on this week. We're going to start at the bottom of the stack with the core protocol. Nizar, if you'd like to kick us off, please.
Of course. So during last week there were several things happening. I guess we can start with the Gemini 2a. There were a few investigations. One is for supposedly Windows platform where some nodes had to restart to continue farming for some reason. That is still under this investigation. And there was one interesting report about EARCH64 on Raspberry Pi 4. It cannot go past the first runtime upgrade on the chain for some reason. I was trying to reproduce it on ROC 64 with 4 gigabytes of RAM, on Orange Pi with 2 gigabytes of RAM. My Raspberry Pi is like really slow and really old, so it has just 1 gigabyte. It's just not enough physically. But in not all other cases, including virtualization, it does work. So I'm wondering if it's something Raspberry Pi specific, but that's like slowly under investigation on the forum. And otherwise, on the core protocol development for the consensus, primitives for KZG were finally reviewed and merged last week. We have also included KZG in the archiving process, so our witnesses are fixed size now, and increased the piece size for the history. It's now 32 kilobytes instead of 4 that we had before, and like a bunch of tests had to be updated to that. And right now I'm working on the plotting changes. We can switch to the mechanism described in the white paper. Oh, not white paper, in the specification for the consensus version 2. And we'll be doing more changes related to that with Shamil this week.
All right, thanks, Nizar. Okay, there's no questions. Shamil, you're up next.
Sure. Last week, I mostly finished the design for the distributed storage network version 2. I proposed an implementation plan and started the work on the second version. I began to remove algorithms from the previous version, and this week I will continue with the DSN v2. I plan to finish the code cleanup and to work on the first prototype. That's it.
All right, thanks, Shamil. Okay. Ivan, hope you're feeling better. Glad to have you back.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Yeah. So during the last week, I was working on I didn't do like anything related to the core protocol itself, but I was like working on the telemetry and optimizing that. So finally, we seem to optimize the Substrate telemetry in terms of like the core microservice of that. So currently we're still facing issues, and I'm still investigating that, like the memory usage of the shard, which receives like all the telemetry info from all of the nodes. Yeah. So also like yeah, I sent some fixes for the telemetry to the upstream. Yeah. Yeah. This was it for the last week. Yeah, we'll continue to investigate the issue with telemetry. Yeah, maybe move on to work on like different stuff.
Okay, thanks. And what else have you got on your agenda for this week, Ivan, other than telemetry, or assuming we get that resolved? Can you hear me, Ivan?
Yeah, hear you now.
Sorry, I was just asking, other than telemetry, what have you got on your agenda after that?
Yes, apart from that, yeah, I will update the description about the Subspace SDK. Yeah, VPR, which I opened before. Yeah, yeah, I was busy with telemetry. Yeah, apart from that, I guess I have nothing on my agenda.
Okay, thanks, Ivan. All right, switching gears into the domains and the execution layer. From my side, I've mainly just had more design discussion and implementation planning calls with Ved and Lucheng. And we are on our way to getting started with the implementation. We have a plan to get to a version 1 by Gemini 3, both for a basic notion of domains and a basic notion of cross-domain or I guess cross-domain messaging. And I will be working this week on getting that plugged into some tickets and issues and milestones in GitHub so that we can track that progress as we move along. All right. Let's see, Lucheng, if you want to go next.
Yeah, sure. So last week, aside from some discussions with Ved and Jeremy on the domains, I was primarily working on some initial implementation tasks which will remain useful in the future and can be done in the existing decoupled execution architecture, like merge the receipts into the bundle and the fork handling we have looking forward to for a while. The tasks listed in the last week are mostly done. There are a few pending pairs. I think they already review at this moment, and there are still some in another branch. I will need some final tweaks before sending these PRs. This week, the goal will be finalizing those PRs and start working on the domain of their implementation, specifically the pilot executor registry. Yeah, that's my updates.
All right, thank you, Lucheng. Ved, you're up next.
Hey everyone. Apart from the common discussions with Jeremiah and Lucheng, I worked on the related spec that is yet to be reviewed or needed some feedback on it. We also had one more round of feedback for the messaging spec. Post that, I started working on the implementation for the relayer, which is much more constrained, very self-contained as such. This week, continue with the implementation and also incorporating the feedback that Jeremiah or Lucheng might have on those specs as well. Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Ved. Okay, moving on to the application layer. Arthur, if you'd like to kick us off.
Hey, hi. So Subscan has released a new version of the Block Explorer. So it's out in production right now. You can see some of the new changes, specifically like qualified reward addresses and total reward addresses. Additionally, Sub Wallet has updated their wallet to now include links to the Block Explorer, so you can check that out. Later today, we are having our final meeting with Trail of Bits for audit for Subspace Desktop. So that will be happening shortly. And lastly, we'll be sending out an R&D update for this month soon. And that's it.
Thanks, Arthur. All right, and let's see. So next we've got Serge.
Yeah, so my primary focus was telemetry, and I was working on adding a unique address count. So for this purpose, I created a simple service that we can run in a Docker container, and it will collect metadata and fetch it to the client, to the UI. Currently, we're using Subscan API under the hood, but in the long term, we can switch to something like Subsquid or any other options that we like. And it's already deployed on our test environment. And after the meeting, I will deploy it on production. And I also included some style adjustments that we discussed on the app sync. So now we have like one row with smaller items. And yeah, apart from that, Ozgun already started addressing some issues related to security audit, and I was doing some small contributions like front-end related stuff. And if there won't be any more critical stuff on telemetry this week, I will continue with security audit. That's all.
Great, thanks, Serge. Would you mind sharing a link to that test environment in the chat? If I could just take a quick look at it.
Sure.
I'm looking forward to seeing that deployed. So this will have the reward address count for all of the wallets or the addresses that have greater than 0.5 TSSC. Which is currently 25,000. Okay, so we're actually already at the goal for unique addresses and node count. We just need to get up to the space pledged amount, and we'll hit milestone 1. Wonderful. Looks great. Okay, and I guess we'll just need to do a short update to the community on this so they know they can track this as well. Arthur, if you don't mind coordinating that with Wei and Yewon once we get this released.
Yep, sounds good.
Okay, great. Let's see. Özgen, you're up next.
Sure. So as Serge mentioned, my primary focus was on the security audit for the desktop. There were actually 5 issues related to security. I opened issues on the GitHub related to all of them, and also an additional one regarding the code quality issues. And in that one, there are subtasks assigned to everybody like me, Serge, and Natasha. Natasha, by the way, volunteered to take some basic issues, so she will get more familiar with the project, but she can talk about it later. So for the issues, I first handled some low-hanging fruits like some typos, some suggested code simplifications, blah, blah, blah. And for the issues, 2 of them are fixed. One of them was the Tauri configuration shall open privilege relate to the front end. We disabled that. And the second one was improper reward address validation. We also handled that. That one, Serge contributed. Thanks for that. Aside from that, my PR to do tracing for the rotation of the log files, finally got reviewed, and we resolved it in the weekend. I put some extra work, and it is merged. So when they release a newer version, we can update the dependencies about that. So that's all for this. And this week, I will continue on the next issues for the Trail of Bits audit.
Great, thank you, Özgen. Glad to hear that we're all sharing the work on getting the audit issues resolved. Okay, Natasha, you're up next.
Okay, for me, last week was onboarding primarily. I was going through my onboarding settings, and at the end of the week, I simply was going to get some of the tickets for Subspace desktop audit. There are simple tickets, but they get me familiar with the code. After this meeting, I will have my first PR regarding that, and I will try to get my second PR end of today or early tomorrow. After that, this week will be continuing on my onboarding list and maybe continue working with some other audits or tickets.
Wonderful. I think that's a new record, Natasha, for somebody to be contributing a PR in their second week. So glad to see that. Okay. All right, moving on to the research discussion. On my side, I was working on finalizing some of the loose ends on the V2 consensus specification, and I don't have it documented yet, but I did make a lot of progress on that. It just needs to get reflected in the spec. So the so what on that is, Nazar, I need to talk to you, so to make sure that we're not implementing the wrong thing, because there's been some changes. And then Daria, we need to go through that as well. I know that was one of the last items to resolve. And I am actually speaking with one of the maintainers at Chia Network, who's responsible for their blockchain protocol and is very familiar with their proof of space. Speaking with him this afternoon, old friend of mine, to try to make sure that we're using it correctly. So there will be some more updates about that in the near future, hopefully. Okay, Daria, turn it over to you.
Well, on the specification for version 2 consensus, we have had several discussions with Jeremiah, and yeah, we basically need to resolve. There's some naming and some order of steps in like plotting algorithm, and then I was working on the DSN V1 specification in. I think I will be asking you, Nazar, and Shamil to take a look at that tomorrow. And if that, there will certainly be some comments that I will need to address because I still feel like I'm confused between node, farmer, and executor. So I'll finish that, and when that is done, I will update it. We'll copy and update it for the DSN V2 specification. So that's my plan for this week.
Great, thank you, Daria. And by the way, Daria is going to be starting full-time next week, right? Next Monday?
Yeah, we decided with Sky that the start with 1st October was more sensible than this week.
Okay, awesome. So for those of y'all that are not aware, Daria has been part-time for a while because she, has a little one at home, but she's still been managing to get quite a lot of work done. So excited to see what she can do when she's full-time. Okay, let's see. I think we've gone through everybody. Did I skip anybody? Oh, okay, cool. Anything else we need to discuss before we close out? All right, well, thank you everybody for watching today, and look forward to passing milestone 1 here for Gemini 2 in the next day or so. Thanks a lot, everybody.